All right, so hold up. There we go. Today I'm gonna talk about being in school for over a month while there's a pandemic going on. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Last year in March, we were, I think it was the Friday before our spring break when we went home and then found out later that evening that we wouldn't be going back to the high school, the building, and instead we'll be doing our learning all online, which my school hasn't done. I haven't actually experienced that until like last year, so it was quite interesting for everyone. At first, it was chaotic for finishing the semester. Um, the class curriculum for all my classes did change a bit due to this new experience that was just brought upon us, because all of a sudden we're not in person. We don't see our teachers, we don't see our classmates, our friends in person anymore. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And my classwork, we didn't have required Zoom meetings at that time because it was all new to us and the school was still trying to figure everything out, the school district. So I remember for my AP class that we would have meetings just because my teacher really wanted us to do well on the AP test. So that was like a class that I'll see whenever our teacher wanted to meet with us. So that's basically how our Zoom meetings work. We would see our class at a certain time whenever our teachers want to see us. So we did have like a structured schedule for Zoom meetings if teachers chose to do it. But at the same time, it was like optional. You only have a meeting when your teacher says, hey, we're having a meeting tomorrow. Be sure to be on class that time. And yeah. But mainly besides that AP class, which for me was nice because it was the first class, besides having those meetings a few times a week, I think at the most we had like 3. We most likely had the whole time during the week. I just don't quite remember because it was last year. But I do know that we met way more often before the AP test than we did after. So for my other classes, we didn't really meet at all. I know for my science class, we met like once or twice online, and it was quite funny because of what happened. But besides that, it was basically logging into Canvas, making sure that you clicked on every class and you were in there to see if you had any assignments for the day. And be sure to just submit them on time and before the due date. And that was basically how they took attendance, and how from March of 2020 to like end of May of 2020. That's how my schooling was basically every day just waking up, having class assignments available at 8 a.m. and then just having them turned in by the end of the day. And I would usually be done around noon, lunchtime, and I would just have free time, which is why I started YouTube in March, just due to the large amount of free time that I had and didn't know what to do. What else? I had something in my head, but I completely forgot about it. That's okay. Let's see. So assignments were, I would say the schoolwork was around the same. It's just some things did change just because of the switch from in-person and to online all of a sudden. Wasn't really all of a sudden. I remember the Friday before spring break, it was a delayed start because that's when our school district taught the teachers of like how to use Zoom. So we knew like it was coming. We just us students or even the teachers didn't know exactly when. And so it's quite funny to find out later that day after school that, hey, we're all online now. So that was basically my spring schooling for 2022. Oh, what I was going to say is that because of this like almost sudden change, I would say almost sudden, it's most likely sudden change. We didn't have finals, so we got out 3 days before because usually the last 3 days we have our finals. So that was also a bonus to have 3 extra days to my summer. Um, and for my summer, I actually took quite a few summer classes just since now that at that time people weren't really meeting up in person for classes. So I got a graduation requirement out of the way through my high school in June. And also, since that class during June of 2020, we didn't have scheduled meetings at all during those 3 weeks for that class. Um, but instead we just had assignments. But the way the teacher organized the assignments was that you have to complete the assignment, a certain assignment before the next one is unlocked. So that was nice because basically you could schedule how you yourself could schedule how much you want to do per day for the next 3 weeks, since she had everything due on the last day of the course of the class. And there was only like one thing where we had to meet because we had it, since it was the class consumer education. So we had to do like a fake interview, but like an interview that will help you. It was basically a real interview. um, a practice interview. That's a better word for it. And so I got feedback from that, and that was really nice. But since there was no meetings during the whole time besides that one interview, which lasted not even for 10 minutes. So, yeah. Um, During that time in June of 2020, besides taking that consumer education course through my high school, I also took another course, which, if it wasn't for the pandemic causing everything to like be online, I wouldn't have done it because the course would have originally took place in somewhere in Pennsylvania, and I don't live in Pennsylvania. So that means I would have to travel, which would have cost a lot more, but I'm glad I took the class since it was online. That's how it was structured as. So it made it more doable for me and for a lot of people, as well, because if it wasn't online, I don't think many of the people that took the class with me would have done it either. And the reason why I'm glad I took this class is because due to the amount of speakers I heard, it was very knowledgeable, and I gained a lot of information of religion and how to incorporate God into your life and how to like prophesy to people and just like how to help people. It was really nice because Tuesdays and Thursdays, the class required us to go out and prophesy to people, sticking to COVID rules. So you have to like ask people. We had to make sure that we could ask people if it was like a total stranger or just someone you met. If you always should ask someone if they're willing for you to pray over them, because it is their life. So I learned how to prophesy, and I did to a few of my friends just because I didn't feel comfortable just quite yet to prophesying over strangers. So I didn't take part in like going out to stores and just asking people, hey, can I prophesy for you? I'm still trying to get used to that. So yeah. And so that was an enjoyable experience, and ironically, those 3 weeks happened during the same time as my consumer education course, which was nice because I learned more about time management in a different aspect than I was used to. And then on top of that, during the same time of June 2020, I took a class through, um I forgot his name. Oh, I feel so bad. But I took a financial, like, foundation class and for specifically for teens, so I learned about financing, and that was nice because I'm currently taking an accounting course, so it, like, helps me. But it was, like, the overall life aspect, so that was really nice to learn. So I took 3 courses in the span of 3 weeks in June 2020, and then July, I stopped doing, like, schooling. I took some courses online that oh, the foundation of finance was through Dave Ramsey's course, and so in, like, July, I took some more of his courses, and that was basically my schooling, but it was, like, less strict and more light flow. And then August, starting back into doing schooling with my high school, I at the beginning, it was still online, but we had, scheduled Zoom classes which we had to attend, and at first, we only had 5 periods a day, so we'll in my school, we have 9, so we rotated every day. So the first, like, Monday and Wednesday, we would have classes 1 through 5, and then Tuesday and Thursday, 6 through 9, and then early bird right after 9. And then Friday we will have everything. So that was interesting, but because we ended, I always ended early because my period was fifth. So I technically only had 4 periods a day. My lunch was fifth period, still is. And so I only had 4 periods a day during that time, besides like Friday, which was at the time optional Zoom days. And it was basically like the spring, just more structured in Zoom meetings. So yeah. And then there was a time, I would say either October or November, where we switched and started having classes every day, all your classes every day, and there was an option to go in person for 2 days or 3 days a week. So we have like Monday, Tuesday were A days, and the A group. And depending which group you were in was based on your last name. And group E was all kids who like were staying at home and not going to school, doing hybrid. So you had an option. And then B days were Wednesday and Thursday, and then Fridays were days that rotated between the A group and B group. I took part in that for the first week, and then I was like, I didn't like how, like, some of the times I was in school, some of the times I was home. To me, it just I didn't like it. So I after those 2 days of being in school, I just continued doing e-learning, um, and it was like that up until, I would say, sometime in until last week. Last week was when it was where you're either in school or online. There was no, like, hybrid option, and I chose to stay online, so e-learning, while some like 75% of the students at my school were 5 days a week at the high school. So it was interesting because the Zoom classes cut in half, and it was like, "Huh, okay." In my opinion, the reason why I chose e-learning was just because there's, like, 30-ish more days left in the school year and I'm quite comfortable of how my setup is at home, so I just continued doing that and just end the year at doing e-learning. Um, because to me, I didn't quite see the point of going back to in school if it's gonna be the same thing of how half 3/4 of the class is in person while some are still on Zoom. So, in either way, I'll still be in front of a screen since the work is usually on our school iPads. So, like, there isn't much change, and I guess a bonus of being in e-learning is that, like, now I could do it live since it is my lunch period. Well, if I was in school, I wouldn't be able to do this, and a main thing for me why I actually didn't choose to go in person is that, um, we can't eat during our classes due to, like, you have to keep your mask on. Um, well, before the pandemic, depending on your teacher, you could eat during your class. So I'm used to having like some snacks throughout the day and not having a big lunch. While the 2 days I did experience at my high school in person, we weren't allowed. We still, I'm pretty sure that the people in person are still not allowed to like have snacks during classes. You're only allowed to eat during your lunch. And even though I was aware that that was the only time I got to eat during my lunch period, um, I'm not a type of person who like consumes a lot at once. I rather have like portions throughout the day. So it like threw off my eating habit and it kind of messed with me a little bit. It wasn't healthy for me, so I didn't choose in person. um, what else about schooling? Oh, I haven't had a final since January 2020, and I find it to be quite nice. For this year's first semester, we didn't have days off. Instead, we just continued having school, and it was our teacher's choice if they want to do like a test or of some sort. And I know for like my math class, we had this like packet that it was optional to complete, and you would receive extra credit if you do, and it went over all the 5 units that we already did in first semester, and it was like nice because that's basically whatever was in that packet would have been on our final. But first semester, none of my teachers choose to do a final. I think mainly because it would be weird. Um, no, I think it's mainly because they didn't want people to cheat or like to have the people at school have a disadvantage because at the people at home it would be easier to cheat. So I guess they just didn't want to take that chance because of the unfairness between students at home and students in person. Um, oh, a thing for some of my classes is that when we're testing, we have to like we have to have a separate device to display like our workspace and take our test on our iPad. So that's a way of how the teachers eliminated cheating in some sort for like people at home, which is actually like good in my opinion. The only problem I would see with that if like someone doesn't have a second device to use, which I understand. So yeah. um, and then for this semester, the second semester, we're not having finals like last May. Um, so if you don't have a D or F in a class, you get to have those last 3 days off since those last 3 days for high schoolers are usually finals at my school district. So that's nice because we get to start somewhere earlier. Um, That's all I have right now. I didn't really structure this now that I realize, but I try to keep some sort of flow, some sort of reasoning through this. Reasoning? Uh, Try to keep it chronologically, even though I kind of skipped between first semester of this school year and the semester I'm currently in. But yeah, so that's how schooling during a pandemic over a year has been for me. um, I don't know how next year will look like. I kind of hope that it's somewhat back to normal because I do miss being in person and like having and like make connections with other people in your class because now it's just like doesn't really exist. So yeah. Thank you for joining on to this live. No matter how long you stayed on for, still, thank you. And if you do choose to subscribe, you'll be subscribing to like Monday videos. Today, there's like a God video talking. What did I talk about today? Hold up. Can't seem. I don't remember. That's okay. What? I'm going to research what was the video posted today. Let's see. It's about relationships and what you need to know to understand about relationships. I would say you should go watch that because it's basically about how don't let people control your life just because you change like your relationship status with that person now. Because it is still your life and your choices. Okay, so those are like my typical Monday videos where we talk about God and how to put him into our life and create a relationship with him and how to imply that in our lives. And then Saturdays, I always say random videos, but that's because it's a random upload. It's whatever I feel like uploading that week. So recently, spoken word, which you see if you have been subscribing and checking up on my uploads. And you'll also be subscribing to random lives throughout the week or throughout the month, like today. And be sure to like and comment what was your favorite part about this video, this live. And thank you for joining, and bye, y'all.